And I guess that's why the question of how to make something you can touch is very important to me. What happens when you touch something? And finally, it's why it's so important for me to make a space that people can enter. I mean, in a lot of work, or I would say the most successful work, I don't really know how things are going to turn out until the work is finished. It's built on an atmosphere of uncertainty, unstable. To put it in another way, the work is kind of a physical process that I initiate, and then I have to figure out how to stop, when to stop, how to turn it off. I don't want to turn it off. So a lot of the work has to do with this imminent collapse, which is literally very dangerous, very unpredictable. And I think that it was this involvement in the physical process of making a thing, dealing with my own inability to draw something, to build something, this ongoing repeated failure, is what I've learned the most from. Not getting it right. Those are the guys that helped me build the project in Venice, and just quickly, it's, I guess you could see already in the pictures, it's two structures that collapse against each other to be, they collapse in a way that they become self-supporting by the weight of the collapse. And it was one of those situations where the language barrier was really interesting. They all spoke Italian, and I don't speak a word of Italian. They didn't speak a word of English, so it was a lot of hand signals, which I think is somehow important to the way the work gets formed. And then I guess you could say that's the pre-life of the work, and then there's the afterlife. There's my friend Carl Holmquist. All of us here are missing him speaking at Artist Space tonight, but he, during the opening, read some poetry, I guess you could say, in the space. And to me, that was also another really interesting way of extending the work into another space, and ultimately towards a kind of invisibility. There it is, just in the background. It's just a stage. This feeling that the object is not only incomplete, a fragment, an orphan thing in the world, but it's a thing with a multitude of possible permutations, an indeterminate thing, an open thing, a thing without a form, whose physical status is just an accident of the way in which it was constructed. The first artwork I ever sold was one of these papercrete paintings. It's like a hippie building material. They make houses out of papercrete, and I thought that was so impractical, ridiculous as a material. It's kind of a failure, so I was attracted to that. But then it was also a way of treating language, the printed page, in a different way. Language turned to stone, words as a material, and instead of a painting, instead of a surface, it's a solid object. So I've been doing this kind of work for years, and only very recently did I start to think that another way of making a painting like that was to make a window, not to make a wall, but to make a hole in a wall, an opening, a threshold. And to me, that's kind of a miraculous discovery, that an artwork can actually cut through a wall. You could see through it. You could walk through it. You could walk through a wall, which is, to me, it's very overwhelming to think about that. It's also, of course, it's a very simple thing to do. If the work is going to postulate a relationship to the world, to objects, to other people, which is open and undefined, then it needs to live with other people. And so I guess I've started to understand the work as a thing which is actually literally, demonstrably infinite, invisible, undefined, broken, undetermined, useless, hated, hatred, on a continuum with other objects, other spaces, indistinguishable from other objects,